Hi everyone, my name is Emily Vernon and I am the Special Events Coordinator with the UW Alumni Association. For today's Cowboy2Cowboy interview, we'll be speaking with UW alumna Liz Rader Haigler. Liz is a Global Training and Development Manager at Halliburton in Midland, Texas. Thanks for joining us today, Liz.
Thank you, Emily. Thank you to the Alumni Association for the invite.
Liz's interview today is one of many that we are doing with alumni across the globe. We hope that these videos will serve as learning tools for students and alumni pursuing new career opportunities. Liz, can you take some time to tell us today about the degree you received from UW and your pathway from graduation to where you are now?
Yeah, I'd love to. So I graduated in 2010 with a Bachelor of Science degree in political science. I also was in the honors program, which, if I could start with a piece of advice, any classes that you can take that really challenge your problem solving and critical thinking, for me it was the honors program, and it was amazing. I use a lot of those like critical thinking and those skills of teamwork in my job today. So I just am really thankful for the education I had at UW, for my courses, my professors. The political science department was also incredible, and I really appreciate the learning that I gained there. But I think the honors program is what really propelled a lot of my, again, ability to critically think and problem solve. So I definitely wanted to highlight that because I think that anyone that takes courses that are really hard and challenging at the time, it may seem like it's overwhelming, but it really does benefit you later in life. Just briefly, I wanted to talk a little bit about my campus involvement because I also think that a lot of my success today does stem back to what I was involved with in school. And I know that people say this all the time, but you've got to get involved in something. College can be the best time of your life, but you've got to take advantage of that. And there's no other time that you'll be able to, go to class and make friends and connections, internships and jobs. And as long as you're involved in something, anything, you can build valuable skills and stories that you can use later in an interview, or just skills you'll be able to use later when you're working on projects or working in teams. So when I was a student at UW, I was involved with a lot of different clubs on campus. I was involved in Freshman Senate and ASUW. I really enjoyed the student government experience that I had. I met a lot of wonderful friends, but I was given the opportunity to lead different committees and work on lots of different projects that had a variety of impacts on campus. So being able to be introduced to not only kind of a formal government and meeting structure, but being able to touch on, budgeting and looking at policies, looking at different ways that you can use your experience to connect with other people and then create, is it programs, is it opportunities, scholarships? There's just a lot of neat things that I learned by being in student government. The other activity that it really stands out to me was I was in a sorority at UW. I was in Chi Omega. And I think the fraternity and sorority experience is another really awesome way that I made incredible friends. But I learned a lot about supporting other people and other people's interests and diversity of thought. And when you have to be roommates with 70 other people, it really teaches you about, what kind of people you want to be around and the values that you have. So I think there's a lot of neat experiences that you can have on campus, either in a student government experience. Fraternities and sororities is great. But there's a ton of other things that you could be involved with as well. Clubs, intramurals. I enjoyed a lot of the volunteer organizations that I worked with, and we did a variety of projects for campus, for the UW community, for the Laramie community. Those are just things that are invaluable. And when I started interviewing for jobs, I got a lot of questions around, tell us about a time you had to solve a problem. Tell us about a time that you had to deal with a difficult person, colleague, conflict. Tell us about a time that you had to lead an initiative. And I could answer all of those questions very, very easily. So briefly, after I graduated and, looked for what was next for me, I was kind of, a lot of people, when you graduate, you aren't really sure what you want to do, but you know what you're passionate about. You know that I really wanted to work with people. I really wanted to have an impact. I was very interested in being a dean of students. So, I didn't know how to get on that path, though. I didn't know what I was going to do. But that's another piece of advice I have is when you get involved and you are seeking involvement on campus and you work with different faculty and staff, that's how you really gain mentorship and connections that can help you in those moments when you don't know what's next for you and you're not sure. So it was through connections I made on campus and awesome, amazing mentors that I had that I received a role a couple months after graduation, maybe like 6 months later. I worked for the Wyoming College Advising Corps, and I accepted a role that was in Evanston, Wyoming. It was really far away from where I had lived my whole life. And it was such a great experience to have that time away from home and to have that first job and to have mentors that were supporting me, surrounding me, telling me that, give this a try. It may not be right for you long term, but it doesn't hurt to just pursue it for now. And that experience is really what launched me into wanting to pursue a master's degree in higher education and student affairs, which I did. About 9 months later. I went to Bowling Green State University in Bowling Green, Ohio. And I looked at degrees at UW, and UW has some incredible graduate programs, but I really did feel and was encouraged by mentors that it would be a good idea to get a different experience somewhere else. Because if I wanted to come back to Wyoming, or I wanted to pursue, a career anywhere, having more experiences and just saying yes really gets you potentially further than you would have thought. So I made that decision that I wanted a different experience. I wanted to try new things. And I went to BGSU and really enjoyed that experience. It actually was a school similar to UW in some ways. It was kind of in a college town like UW, but of course they had their own quirks and traditions, and it was fun to be a student there. And then when I graduated, I worked in higher education for about 2 or 3 years before I sort of did a career pivot into HR, talent development, and I've worked at Halliburton now for almost 5 years.
Do you think that your degree in political science helped you with going into your master's program or with those initial jobs that you had?
Absolutely. It's funny, when I went to Bowling Green for my graduate program, I met people from all over the country. It was a pretty competitive program to get into. But once I met my fellow colleagues in my cohort, they were amazing, right? But I noticed that I could compete with any of them. And I had an incredible background from being at UW. I could write very well. I could critically think, and that problem solving that I talked about. I think Wyoming has such an enriching, atmosphere, and the professors that I had at UW were very challenging. Some of that is because of the small class size. You can't hide in a class of 15 people. So really being pushed to be a good student, and especially in political science too. We did a lot of, policy studies and how do you interpret data to get towards a policy or notice trends. I also think the strategic thinking that I use now today absolutely has served me very, very well in my role today, in my graduate program. That all came from being a student in political science. How do you use history, trends, and data to then know where we're heading? How do you communicate a good message? All of those things were incredibly valuable. And then on top of having great experiences and great student involvement, I was so confident going into my graduate program and had a great experience. And it was all because of what I had done and gained from my time at UW.
Could you tell us a little bit about your position at Halliburton, and then maybe transition into what excites you about going to work every day?
So my role right now at Halliburton, I am a training and development manager. There's a few different people like that at Halliburton who work with different product service lines that Halliburton offers. So Halliburton is an energy services company, and the product service line or group that I support is the global health, safety, environment, service quality, and continuous improvement group. So with that job, I'm looking at training and development opportunities, talent development, career paths for different employees. It's also a neat role because I impact the safety culture at a company that has more than 40,000 employees. And it's neat. Every day I wake up and I get excited because I'm trying to solve problems, not only to keep our people safe, but to help increase customer awareness about why Halliburton is an incredible company, why you should use us for energy services. And Halliburton has, some Wyoming ties, and there's some amazing connections that I've made from, my time at Halliburton through UW as well. So it's a great company to work for because it's a global workforce. But my job really can make an impact worldwide, which is really neat. I never thought I would be in a job like this. I didn't know that this was something that my career path would take me on. But that's another piece of advice I've got is you've got to say yes to things, even if you're not sure about it, even if it's not quite what you thought, or even if you feel like it's a little bit of I hate to say like a demotion, but there's lots of things you'll be thrown at you, and you may think, I don't want to do that. That seems administrative, or I've already done something like that. But everything along your path teaches you something to get you to where you're meant to be. And so I fully believe that. I don't know if I would have ever thought I'd be in a job like this, but it's because I said yes to things and just tried things, and nothing was beneath me, that I sort of geared up to be able to be ready for something like this.
So knowing what you know now, is there anything that you would have done differently in your career or after graduation?
I don't know if there's anything I would have done necessarily differently, but there is something that I feel like helped me kind of plot along the path or kind of continue that momentum. Another thought of advice is make opportunities for yourself. Even if you don't see an internship or you don't see a role that you really want, it doesn't hurt to ask questions and ask your mentors and make connections with people to kind of propel yourself. The example I will give is my first year out of grad school, I wanted a summer internship back in Wyoming because honestly, I was a little homesick. Ohio was nice, but I was homesick. So I said, okay, I really want to go back to Wyoming for summer, but I need an internship. I want to make sure I'm continuing to learn through the summer. So I reached out to my connections. I reached out to people in Wyoming, Colorado, and I said, here's what I'm interested in. Does anyone have anything? Could we create a position for me? And sure enough, someone said, well, listen, we don't have an internship right now, but if you'd like to come on, we can create something for you, or we can have you do part-time here and try this here. I said, yes, let's go for it. Let's do it. But if I hadn't have asked and I hadn't have kind of made that opportunity for myself, I'm not sure what I would have done that summer. So again, it just takes making sure that you're making connections, but you're willing to ask for help and just put yourself out there. And the worst people can say is no. And the best thing that they can say is, sure, let's try it. There's so many moments I can point to where people said, yeah, let's try it. Why not? And that has become just amazing, but it takes you putting yourself out there to make those things happen.
So I know we've touched on this a little bit throughout the interview, but is there any more advice or encouragement that you give to students and alumni who are either just entering the job market or are looking to switch professions?
I've said it a couple times, but I'll go back to it because I think it's so important, is putting yourself out there to find mentors and finding people that are willing to give you honest feedback. A lot of people think that, a mentor is somebody that, helps you in many aspects of your life. But I have found that I have mentors for lots of different things. I have mentors when I want honest feedback. I have mentors when I want career advice. I have mentors just at UW when I'm like, hey, I want to hang out at homecoming and I want to hear how you are. And it's sort of just a relationship versus the official mentorship. But I think building those connections for a long time, that's how you then put yourself out there when you want to switch jobs, or when you need a reference, or when you just want to talk through a problem with someone. And I think getting involved is how you get mentors, reaching out to people. I think when I say involvement too, you should get involved with things even when you graduate. So I have volunteered in every community I've lived in. I've lived in a couple different places in Texas, and I've always joined an alumni association for UW, tried to see if there's watch parties, and then see if there's other, events that will happen. I joined Chi Omega alumni events. That's a great way to be involved. And then just local volunteering. You never know who you're going to meet, and you also never know who went to UW or knows somebody that went to UW. I switched companies for a little while here in Midland, and part of my hiring process, I met and interviewed with a couple people who worked at that company who went to UW, and it was just like, I don't know if that's exactly why I got the job, but it certainly didn't hurt. It didn't hurt that we had that connection and that we were able to reminisce a little bit. So really putting yourself out there and being involved while you're in school, but when you're out of school, those involvement and those connection pieces are absolutely invaluable still.
Well, thank you for taking the time to speak with us today, Liz. I really appreciate it. These videos help serve as additional tools for students and alumni looking at professions such as yours. For everyone watching, please visit our website, and the next slide will have additional links for career resources. Thanks.
Thank you.